On this episode of Locked On Angels, Zach Neto is the man, and Johnny making a case to be the face of this franchise. He looked phenomenal in that doubleheader yesterday, and we're going to talk all about it. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're the biggest Zach Neto fans. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all this Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, you can create an account, and you can use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase.
Happy Thursday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we've been fans of the Angels our whole lives, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to be talking Angels baseball with you every single Monday through Friday. We're here 5 days a week, always talking Angels with you. On today's show, we're going to recap the doubleheader against the Yanks and play a little Angels fantasy baseball with our best lineups right now. But Mike, let's get into the doubleheader. It started with a 5-2 loss for the Halos on Wednesday.
Yeah, a lot of rain, and so they had to have a doubleheader yesterday, and then there were questions if they could even get that doubleheader in, but they did. It was good, and the Angels started off well, John. They had Luis Gil on the ropes in that first inning. They had 30 pitches thrown to them in that first inning, John.
Yeah.
2 walks, one from Calhoun, one from Neto. Problem is they didn't get any hits, and they didn't score any runs. In fact, they had 7 walks in this game, but they didn't capitalize and get runs. Now, I love the patient approach and the good batter's eye that they had. Now, Luis Gil did say that he was having trouble gripping the ball in that first game, and so he was really struggling. But if the Angels are going to be a competitive team, this is a moment where I think Ron Washington and Johnny Washington need to sit his hitters down and go, we had chances, fellas, and we didn't take advantage of those chances. And a good team will take advantage. They should have come away with at least 1 run in that first inning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem with not coming away with runs is that he cruised all the way to the end of his outing. He didn't go very deep, Luis Gil, but he cruised to the end of his outing. And when you don't put your thumb down on the opponent, and when you have him on the ropes like that, then that carries over into the next couple of innings, and that momentum is gone.
Yeah, and I know that there's been a narrative all season long of the Angels not being able to come through in these moments. I understand that. I think that this is a moment now where it's not so weighty. It's not so deflating because the Angels are out of it. I think this is a learning and developmental moment for these players and for these coaches to say, fellas, here's what we need to do in those moments. We got to make contact. And even in game 2, there were a couple of moments where they were striking out looking and it was pitches that were close.
Yeah.
And so that's where this young team needs to grow. That's where this young team needs to be aware of the situation. So it's time to foul those pitches off. It's time to just maybe put some wood on the ball, right? And make some contact, because that causes a lot of issues. And it seems like the Angels at some points in games, they get that. And then like in game 1, it seemed like that just kind of fell out their head. They forgot about doing that and keeping the inning alive and moving the ball and moving to the next hitter and making the defense move around, right?
Yeah, protect mode seems to be turned off at times with this young team. And so that feels like the next step. I mean, obviously it's something they already know, but it's a recognition of protect mode. I mean, yeah, you're right. How many strikeouts looking were there yesterday? I remember being frustrated watching it going, that was in the zone. I don't know what you were looking at. I mean,
and don't argue it.
Don't argue it either.
Right. That's the thing is that I appreciate that they have this awareness of the zone, but a lot of those pitches are not like, ooh, that's kind of off the, no. They were in the zone, man.
Yeah.
And so for you to to argue that, it kind of makes you look foolish and silly. And I think it actually lessens your credibility for later on if you are arguing a pitch that is close.
I think a lot of what we see is a discussion of, where was that? Knees?
Yeah.
Okay. As opposed to straight up arguing the call.
Gauging the zone is kind of what they're trying to figure out. That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yankees scored some runs against the Angels. 5
game.
total off of Davis Daniel. He did not have a great outing. 5 earned runs in 3 1/3 innings pitched. 6.04 ERA in 5 starts, Mike, in the majors. That includes the 8 scoreless innings in his first start. So that ERA, despite the 8 scoreless, up past 6 at this point.
What do you think's going on with our boy, with Davis Daniel? What's happening with him right now?
Yeah, it's confusing. I just don't think. I guess what it is, it's a matter of, if he's not perfect and he's not putting the pitches where he wants them to go, then that's kind of his only game plan, I guess.
Yeah.
You could say.
Yeah.
You're not fooling anybody with 90, 92 fastball. Like, people are going to sit on that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I have appreciated about Davis Daniel is his ability to pitch tunnel, but yeah, it's walking guys. It all just kind of adds up on him. So it just doesn't seem like, even with a clean start, a clean slate to start a game, it's just not been effective for him on the mound this season.
Yeah. And I really obviously like the guy and I want him to be successful, but it does seem like once he gets figured out, there isn't any adjustment that comes after that. And so that's the piece of letting these young guys play in the second half so that they can figure that stuff out, which is why we got to be patient with these guys, because this is who the Angels have, and let's let them develop at the major league level. Because right now, when he goes to AAA, he's much better than he's not. And there's only really like one more thing for him to do, and that is prove himself in the majors. And so I'd love to see him get a few more consistent starts instead of being sent down and sent back up. I'd love for him to have that opportunity. Now, I know if he's putting together 4 consecutive starts of 3 2/3 innings, then I understand why the Angels are like, man, he's just not ready and it's not helping us, and there's not developing that's taking place. But it does seem like he has a game plan, and then when the Yankees or whatever team he's facing figures it out, then there isn't an adjustment that takes place. Do you think that there was maybe, I know that he struggled with Logan O'Hoppe behind the plate, but do you think that Matt Thaiss had anything to do with the struggle yesterday?
Not necessarily. I feel like with Davis Daniel, he had O'Hoppe behind the dish, but even Carson Fulmer didn't go very long. But Carson Fulmer, I mean, he was throwing his pitches in on the hands to Aaron Judge and in on the hands to Juan Soto. So it was just very different strategies to me. It was like, man, if I put this out over the plate, doesn't matter where it is, Aaron Judge can reach for it. He can crush it, obviously, if it's down the middle. So I'm going to jam him. And we saw that from Carson Fulmer. I think that was the big difference in those 2 starts. Mike, yesterday was all about Zach Neto. We talked about this.
Yeah.
Not only did he pour on the offense yesterday, and we'll talk about what he did in game 2, the Angels needed him to come through, and he most certainly did. And he brought the defense. There was an incredible catch in the bottom of the 4th where he caught the ball while falling down in right field, and it was more of a slip. It wasn't very intentional. He got up, bobbled the ball a little bit, hung on to it, and got it back to first base. I think he might have had a play had he not bobbled the ball. It kind of rolled up his wrist, and he caught it in midair and threw it. But it was also him who got the halos on the board in this one. Top of the 7th, he hits a 2-run home run, his 15th of the year. Listen to this stat. Zach Neto joins Darren Erstad and Carney Lansford as the only Angels infielders with 15 home runs and 20 stolen bases.
Heck yeah.
In a season. This is the only time the Angels scored in that first game. They left 10 runners on base in this game, as you mentioned, but after Zach Neto's home run, they didn't do anything else, so it was a 5-2 loss. But he was breaking all kinds of ground yesterday with what he was doing, taking the lead for the home run, tying the home run lead, I should say, and taking the lead for RBIs. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But yeah, Zach Neto's big day yesterday was incredible to see, but unfortunately the Angels fell 5-2 in that game 1. You mentioned Logan O'Hoppe struggled And I felt bad because his family was there. Mike 0 for 10 across the whole day with 6 strikeouts across the whole day. And I'm wearing this one because he's on my fantasy team. So I was
you felt it.
Oh, that was brutal. So I know Neto's family was in the house. Ohapi's family was in the house. Anything to be said about that? I mean, we had 2 very different performances. I know Logan had like 350 friends and family there. So anything to be said about that at all at the plate for him?
I'm sure that there may have been something that was in his heart, maybe something in his head. But the reality is that Logan's been pretty good. And then he wasn't good against the Yankees in this doubleheader. And so I think that it's just one of those situations where you just got to do a Mike Scioscia. You got to turn the page, and you got to face the Yankees again today. Right. And that's, I think, what he just needs to get ready for. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has a really great game against them today at 4:05.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels are playing the Yankees at 4:05 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, Game 2 was much better. We'll tell you why. Neto rules New York, and we'll talk about all of that coming right up.
Today's episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you in part by Game Time. It's now the official authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, and Game Time is obsessed with helping you find ways to save money on your tickets. They've got last-minute deals, and you can save up to 60% off, not just baseball, but all kinds of sports and concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. And when you have the app, there's exclusive in-app flash deals on select seats ahead of time, whatever event you're going to, and then zone deals where you pick the section and they choose, Game Time chooses the seat. And then I love the all-in pricing feature at the very end. No surprises. You get a panoramic view of where you're going to be sitting. And the best part about Game Time is that they have some of the best return policies. Your tickets are covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take all the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Game Time app. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB, $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And every day, when you're done here, it's time to make Locked On MLB your second listen. Get ready for the playoff picture with Sully. Paul Francis Sullivan is going to be there. He's got you covered every single day on Locked On MLB. It's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, it's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Speaking of your team every day, the Angels finish up this series in New York against the Yankees at 4:05 Pacific time, looking for a series win. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Game 2 was so much fun to watch, and it was so much fun to watch simply because Zach Neto decided to have just an incredible 2-game stretch. Angels won this game 8-2, and they got the scoring started, John. Top 2, Pilar singles, Theis singles, Mickey Moniak singles, and Pilar scores. Then Joe Adell follows with a walk. And then this is where it got a bit frustrating. LeBlanc and Stefanik struck out looking.
Yeah.
And so that was frustrating. And with 2 outs and the bases loaded, you're like, are we just repeating what we did in the first inning yesterday or in the earlier game? But Zach Neto decides to come through for us. He hits a 3-2 sinker that was up in the zone and hits a grand slam, John. And the Angels were already up at that point 2-0. But to be able to go up 6-0 really, I think, put their foot on the throat of the Yankees, something they didn't do in Game 1.
Yeah, they absolutely needed Neto to come through like that, especially after the 2, again, strikeouts looking. And you've got the bases loaded and like, are we really going to come away with just 2 runs in the situation? And I had that thought after Moniak singled. It was like, okay, we got the first run there. Okay, this is great. And then I was really worried they weren't going to come through. So he hits that, and man, just what is it about the rain and long days at Yankee Stadium? Remember the rain delay where Jared Walsh hit that grand slam off Aroldis Chapman? The Angels came back to win that one.
Yep.
That was incredible. So this, even though it wasn't a delayed game today, it was 2 games, and it was just a long day at Yankee Stadium. So it was great to see Zach Neto be able to do that. Mike, the Yankees did get a run back. It could have been more, but Joe Adell made a great jumping catch in right field off the bat of Gleyber Torres. And then the Angels led at 5 or by 5 at that point. In top of the 4th, they had runners on second and third. Zach Neto hits a double to right center field, 2-run score. Neto has 6 RBIs in the second game and 8 RBIs total.
So good
at that point. So this is a great note from Matt Birch, Angels PR. Zach Neto is the first Angels shortstop with a 6 RBI game since Freddie Patek. Am I saying that right? Paddock?
I think so. That's a name that I've not heard of before. So our longtime Angel fans, let us know, Freddie Patek or Freddie Patek. But he had 7 RBIs, John, against the Red Sox.
What's the line, Obi-Wan Kenobi? That's a name I haven't heard for a long time. Long time. That's how I feel right now.
Right.
The only other Halo shortstop with a 6 RBI game, Jim Fregosi, of course.
I know that name.
Yeah, we know that one. June 10th, 1964 at Cleveland. Carson Fulmer got into this one, Mike. He went 4 innings, 7 hits on 2 earned runs, another 4-inning outing. Is that a good thing for Carson Fulmer at this point? I mean, is it a matter of, yeah, he'll go about 4 or 5 innings. I know he's kind of filling a role in this rotation that's desperately needed. He's been good.
Yeah.
I guess. Like, even though it's not these long, tremendous outings, what he's doing is good, but is that sustainable? What do you say?
Well, he feels like an opener. And I think in this starting rotation, a Carson Fulmer opener who's going 4 2/3 would be great.
It's a lot better than Jose Suarez. That's
right.
For sure.
But it would be great if the other guys were going 5, 6 innings, right? But the problem is that we're not having that. We saw what happened in the first game, 3 1/3 or 3 2/3 from Davis Daniel. And so that's the problem, is that you're really taxing your bullpen. But the bullpen was great in this game, and they've been really good, John. 4 2/3 innings, 2 hits in this game from Marte, Krause, and Matt Moore. Here's my question to you. They've been good. This bullpen has been good. And on the TV side, on the TV broadcast, they talked about like, hey, there's great potential for this bullpen in 2025 and the addition of a healthy Robert Stevenson. Are you excited about what this could potentially be? Or are we getting excited over players that are good right now, but maybe over time are going to get figured out?
Yeah, you know what? That's a really good point, because there are certainly great relievers out there who are just always good, right? No matter where they go, no matter what they've done, maybe they eventually hit their peak at a certain age. I'm thinking of what's his name with the Orioles right now, the closer. And he's a certified bona fide closer, and you know he's struggled this year because it's his best years are behind him. But I think about what the Angels have in the bullpen now. I really like Roansy Contreras at the back end of the bullpen. He's been thriving there, super successful there. I think about Ben Joyce, that he didn't need to get into either game yesterday. So if it's a close one today, we'll likely see him out of the pen. I love that, Mike. You think about Hunter Strickland, Matt Moore, they won't be around. So that kind of leaves somebody like Jose Marte, who's been good. I know Hans Krause started out really great, kind of struggling. So here's what I'm getting at. I think about guys like Jimmy Herget, right? Came up, and the Angels were able to get him from Texas, tore it up in his first season with the Angels. And then you're right, like he started to get figured out. Or at the very least, he wasn't able to throw the way that he was throwing that first year. And then, you know, we couldn't rely on him anymore. And so I brought this up during the trade deadline about not just relievers, but players in general. The trade deadline is, what have you done for me lately? But especially when it comes to relievers, that seems to be the case all the time. Yeah. What have you done for me lately? As in, what do your last 3 months look like? What do your last 6 months look like? You kind of range from there. I mean, look, Matt Moore, phenomenal last year. It didn't matter if he was on the Angels or the Guardians or the Marlins. He was great last year. And this year, something changed. Just not as effective, not hitting his spots and giving up home runs and things like that. So that's the thing. We say it all the time. Oh, relievers are volatile. Relievers are volatile. But this is what we're talking about. You have a guy who can be hot and spicy, and then all of a sudden just not be good anymore. And so I'm thinking about like Hunter Strickland. It was really great to start the season, struggled in June, really great again. He pitched well. Was that yesterday or did he got into the first game, didn't he?
Yeah, he was in. Yeah.
Okay. And didn't do anything bad. Like he got through that one
right
as well, but he's had his moments lately too. So all of that to say, this is what we mean when we say relievers are volatile. It's because it's always a matter of what have you done for me lately. And excuse me, I think between what the Angels have in the young guys and who they have in the minors on the come up, I think that that's going to be an area of success for the Halos next season. What about you?
Yeah, with the success of Jose Quijada so far, he's got 6 innings and he's only given up 1 earned run, which is great. I was a little bit concerned about his velocity last night because he did hit 90, 91. Now, as he got a little bit more loose, he was like 93, 94.
That always seems to happen, but it is concerning that it was 90, 91 because usually he starts about 92, 93, gets up to about 96, 97 by the end of the first batter or something like that.
Which I understand. He's only got 6 innings pitched and he's coming off surgery and repairing his arm. So I understand all of that. I think that he's going to be somebody that the Angels would probably want to continue to use in the 6th inning, right? 5th inning, 6th inning, somewhere around there. And then have like the Hans Krause and Ben Joyce and perhaps even an Eric Torres and next year being somebody like Robert Stevenson coming in. I think what we'll find from the Angels as they prepare for the next season is I think a lot of the in-house players will start to become their bullpen. It'll start to become the players. I can't see the Angels going and trying to grab some big name bullpen relief guys, even a closer. I think that they have those people potentially in place. And what the Angels will probably do next season, especially if Perry stays, is he'll probably go and get some bargain shopping, bargain hunter type of stuff, like a Hunter Strickland and a Matt Moore and Adam Simber. I think he'll probably go and get those types of players. But I feel a bit more confident in this bullpen because they've proven themselves over the last few weeks that they're able to hold some leads. I know that they had some times where Hans Krause, he struggled, right? But that's going to be a part of baseball. That's going to be a part of the game. But I'm excited about what we're seeing from a Ben Joyce, and I'm excited about what we're seeing from a Jose Marte, who is somebody who has really struggled, but seems like lately he's starting to really figure things out.
Craig Kimbrell. That's who I was trying to say.
Yeah. Notice I was quiet. I just nodded when you said his name.
He didn't help me out at all.
I'm like, what is his name? Somebody probably put it in the comments already. Yeah. It's interesting when you're watching a show, those names come to mind real fast. When you're doing a show, suddenly you can't think of anybody's name.
Yeah. You guys know that I draw a blank quite often. So I always appreciate the comments that help me out in that regard.
Locked On Angels is brought to you in part by Supply House. You can get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades at supplyhouse.com. It's the most reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. And they have a very easy-to-use website that's packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands. That's a great selection, by the way. And when you do, you'll get your order delivered right to your front door, and shipping is fast and it's coast to coast. And if you need any help, they have expert support and industry-leading service from some of the friendliest folks in the business. You get to talk to a real person every single time. And if you are in the skilled trades, you can actually get a competitive edge with Supply House. They have a free Trademaster program. Every Trademaster gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. You can join thousands of other trade pros already benefiting from the free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM. And you can order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere you are in the United States with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com.
Mike, remember a couple of days ago, we got the news that not Schanuel, I'm looking at the word Schanuel, Zach Neto went to Ron Washington and said, hey, I think I'm ready to bat second.
Yeah.
You think I can bat second? So we put him in the 2-hole. In fact, we've got Schanuel at the top, Neto batting second, Logan O'Hoppe at third right now. And I know Taylor Ward is on paternity leave, but before that, he was around 5th in the lineup when they did this new configuration at the top. The reason I bring this up is because earlier in the season, there was a question of whether or not these guys were ready to handle those spots in the lineup. Well, since Rendon got hurt, Schanuel did end up back at the number 1 spot and has been there most of the season. In fact, when Rendon got into game 1, he was batting 6th. By the way, he had a pretty good game yesterday.
A couple of hits. Yeah. It was like he didn't miss a beat at all. Yeah. That's why I hate that guy.
I know.
Right?
Seriously. Tony Two-Bagger. Yeah. He just comes back, and I think Wayne Randazzo said he rolled out of bed and has a 2-hit game with a walk. Like, ridiculous.
Right.
So anyway, this was the big conversation was, are these young guys ready to handle those spots in the order? Now, I think Zach Neto certainly has handled the 2 spot really well. And he's come up in situations where he can hit grand slams because the guys in front of him are getting on base. Logan O'Hoppe, I mentioned yesterday, 10 at-bats, 6 strikeouts, 0 for 10, Mike. And I went and looked at what his numbers were before yesterday from the 3 spot, a 200 batting average, just 2 hits in 12 plate appearances, 2 walks, 2 hits, and 4 strikeouts. So not his best spot. Logan O'Hoppe actually bats really well in the 5th and the 6th spot. In fact, most of his games and plate appearances have come from the 5th spot, 192 PAs versus 92 plate appearances in the 6th spot, but he's hitting .318 and slugging .577 from the 6th spot. So kind of makes you wonder, hey, you know, when we wrote our lineups a couple of years ago on the show, and I said, you know what I like is when you have on-base guy, hit guy, best hitter, cleanup. And then you repeat that cycle again. I kind of feel like you could do that with Logan O'Hoppe toward the middle of the order. So I bring all of this up because we want to do a little fantasy Angels baseball and just dream up what our potential lineups would look like. And let's even reach down into the minors. It's almost September. Everything's made up and the points don't matter. And I think it would be fun to just say, hey, what's the best lineup the Angels could run out there? Why don't you get us started?
Yeah, I think that I'm going to start with Nolan Schanuel, John. I think one of the things that I've learned as a baseball fan over the years is obviously I kind of lean in the more traditionalist perspective where you have the speedy guy at the top, then you have somebody who can handle a bat, a Chuck Knobloch, right? He's going to be number 2, and then number 3 is going to be somebody like Bernie Williams from the Yankees, right? It'll Jim Edmonds. It'll be that type of guy.
Or what about I'm looking for it here. The Paterick. What was the name that
Freddie? Yeah, Freddie Patek or whatever his name was.
Patek. Yeah. How about him?
Yeah. We'll put him in there, right? Yeah. I'm more of a baseball traditionalist that way. But what I'm learning over the last few years is that I want guys in their hottest, most successful spot, right? Like, and so Nolan Schanuel has really proven to be a great leadoff hitter. So I would put Schanuel at number 1, even though Rendon is back.
Yeah, I would do the same thing. I don't think I like Rendon in that leadoff spot anymore. I think it was working for a while, but I think it's important for him to be in the middle of that order again. And Mike, maybe that's why he had a little bit more success yesterday, considering that was the first time he bat 6th rather than number 1. So I think I'm with you. I think I like Schanuel hitting at the top of this order. What about number 2?
Number 2, I think we have to stick with Zach Neto, right? I mean, the guy has proven to be an owner in that spot, and I think he should lose that spot if he slumps, and his slump is over a period of maybe 10 games, right?
It's his to lose is the way to say that. Yeah. And you know what it reminds me of is when, they would have Trout batting 2nd, and for a long time, we've often said, like, shouldn't Trout be batting 3rd, best hitter on the team, or maybe because he's showing so much power, put him at 4th, but yeah, to me, it's like I like Neto at 2nd. It does remind me of how they used Trout for all those years batting 2nd. So I think I'm with you there. I think Schanuel at the top, Neto 2nd. Here's where I think it gets a little bit interesting. Why don't you hit us with number 3?
Can I get some heat for this one? I want to take some fire from the fans. I think I would put Rendon at 3.
Really?
And the reason why I would put Rendon at 3 is because of what you mentioned about O'Hoppe struggling there. And as I look at the other potential names, I don't want Moniak hitting 3rd. I don't want Adele hitting 3rd. Pilar maybe hitting 3rd, but I think I might want to try Rendon there because I'm also thinking about 2025, and I know that the lineup will be a bit different in 25 with Trout back and all of those things. But I think I would want him there because he can handle the bat well. He can walk a lot. And then I think it sets up Taylor Ward, who bats fourth in this lineup, and Taylor Ward, who's an RBI guy. I think I'd like to have the Schanuel at the top, the Zach Neto who comes through. And then I need a professional hitter at number 3.
I got one for you.
Okay.
Since we're getting wild and crazy with the fantasy.
Okay.
Christian Moore.
At number 3.
Batting third. Let's do it.
You would bring him up from the Trash Pandas.
If he's hitting the way, I mean, look, he had a 2-homer day yesterday, and he hit a walk-off home run. He erased that 0 for 4 that he had 2 days ago. And I'm bringing him up in September, and he's hitting the way that he's hitting. Like, I'm doing it. And build the rest of your lineup out around that. But put him at number 3 and see if he sinks or swims. I would love to do that.
Yeah. And then I think, would you have a Taylor Ward bat behind him as sort of a cushion? Neto in front, Ward behind?
Yeah, or maybe even somebody like a Pilar at fourth, because Taylor Ward, to me, I don't know. I feel like he slumps too much to cling to the cleanup spot or the batting third spot that he's been sitting in for. So like he just is so streaky that to put him third and fourth and then make him stay there. That's why I like seeing him down 5, 6, like lately. Because in my opinion, he's lost the third and the fourth spot. So I would trust somebody like Pilar in the number 4 spot if it was me.
If we're going to go 5, I think I'm going to go back to Logan O'Hoppe. I think that's where he deserves to be, and he's earned the right to be. And doesn't that just feel right, John? Like if you're putting a lineup together in MLB The Show, you're putting Logan O'Hoppe at number 5, right? If you're writing your fantasy team out, you're putting Logan O'Hoppe at number 5, which then puts Mickey Moniak at 6. I think Moniak, that's a good spot for him because Moniak has the ability to come through in a big way, but it also doesn't put a ton of pressure on him to have to come through. And maybe perhaps it helps with his first pitch swinging that he needs to dial back a bit, which he's done. And he got a couple of hits yesterday, and his average is now up over 220. So the guy's starting to climb back in. I wouldn't be surprised to see him at maybe 250, 260 by the end of the year.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Number 7, I think Adele would do really well at number 7. And you get a little bit of power. He'll take the walk. He's starting to hit the ball all over the field again, which is nice to see. Michael Stefanik has just been awesome to watch.
Been great.
And coming through, contact guy. I would put him 8 or 9. Now, if you want to be realistic, Christian Moore will probably end up in like a 9 spot, right? But I mean, it would be fun to see him.
I actually think that they would put Christian Moore at like 7 or 8.
You think so?
They would put him at 9 because they kind of see that 9 as the first of 2 leadoff hitters, right?
Yeah.
And I think that they probably put him in the 7 or 8 hole.
Speaking of first of 2 leadoff hitters, how about Jordyn Adams?
Yeah,
like if he's tearing it up at AAA, let's bring him up, put him in this lineup at number 9. See if he can drive in a couple of those guys at the bottom of the order. Like Stefanik's going to get on base and he'll be in front of you. And if Jordyn Adams is swinging for power like he's been doing, then I think it would be really interesting to see him up in September and maybe at the bottom of the order to drive some of those guys in and be a speed guy on the base pass where Nolan Schanuel isn't quite the speed guy, but he'll still put the ball in play and give Jordyn Adams a chance to run. So yeah, that's kind of us just brainstorming. Let us know what you guys think. Put your ideal order or anybody you would like to see come up and play for the Angels from the minors, and put your lineups down below in the comments on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you.
Fantasy baseball is fun. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out the Locked On MLB podcast show with Paul Francis Sullivan. We call him Sully. You can too. He's going to prepare you for the rest of summer and for the playoffs that are coming up with baseball. Unfortunately, the Angels aren't in, but he's going to prepare you for baseball. It's got such great knowledge about baseball. Check out his show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube. Get in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way down. We'd love to hear from you because, Mike, tomorrow we got ourselves a little Fan Mail Friday, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's what I think would be really great. Everydayers, we already mentioned putting your lineups below. We'll share some of those lineups on the show tomorrow. But let's do a segment called This Guy. And I want to see who it is that you want to bring up from the minor leagues. Just say, this guy, and then put the reason for this guy to be in the majors for the rest of the season. Do that tomorrow for Fan Mail Friday on Locked On Angels.
Only if we promise to say, this guy, this guy.
Yes, we'll do it.
All right, friends. Thanks for being here. Until tomorrow's show, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
All right, y'all. We'll see you back here tomorrow for Fan Mail Friday.
This guy.
This guy.
Or this guy.
This guy. This is the guy.